Let's talk about how the MacBook Neo with 8 gigabytes of RAM can likely outperform a similarly priced Windows laptop with 16 gigabytes of RAM. I'm going to teach you about memory management, a super nerdy topic, but you're going to learn a lot, so buckle up. So as a refresher, what is RAM or memory? They mean the same thing here. RAM is a really small bucket of really fast storage that stores all the things it's currently doing. Think your Chrome tabs, your applications that you're running, everything. So when you need to open those applications, they're right there ready to go for your computer to open up pretty much instantly. Now, when your RAM bucket gets full, too many Chrome tabs open, too many applications, your computer has to put those open apps somewhere, so it puts them in your hard drive, your regular hard drive where you store like your pictures and stuff. Now, this hard drive is way slower than your RAM, so that's why when you start opening up too many applications and you fill up your RAM, those applications become really slow. This process of sorting things in and out of the buckets and deciding where they go is called memory management, and it's something handled by your operating system. The Mac is going to outperform here for a few different reasons. The processor in the computer is what actually handles the memory management and dictates the speed, specifically its single core performance. The Mac processor is going to outperform pretty much any other processor in that price range, so it's just going to be faster at doing this sorting. But the real big difference comes down to the operating system and hardware. So even though the Mac actually has a smaller bucket, it's still way faster. Here's why. So when a Windows application wants to put an application into short-term storage, say a Chrome tab, it has to first make a request to the operating system. The operating system has to find a space for it within all of the other apps running. It then makes a request to the hardware, and the hardware then stores it in memory. Not only do all these steps take time, but crucially, because Windows is dealing with a bunch of external apps, it can't really prioritize things as far as where they go in memory. It just kind of puts it in there. It's first come, first serve. For those who are going to correct me, I know Windows does some level of intelligent memory management. I'm oversimplifying for a video. Now let's talk about how the Mac does it. So on the Mac, because Apple owns the software, operating system, and hardware, they can skip pretty much all of these steps. So when you want to store something in memory, it doesn't need to make a request to a hardware endpoint. It just stores it directly in memory. But because the operating system has insight not only what's happening in the operating system itself, so apps to apps, but what's happening within the apps, like what tabs you're using the most, it can actually prioritize which items you're using first and stack them in the bucket accordingly. So things that you're going to be using all the time, it's going to put right at the top of the bucket, and things that it knows you're not going to use very frequently, it will then offload that to the hard drive. Apple also uses something called unified memory, where the top of the bucket is even faster than the bottom of the bucket for transfer speed. So the stuff you're using frequently is it can transfer back and forth between your laptop at like lightning speed. And then one of the things that really makes a difference, because all of this is on the same chip on an Apple computer, it's able to transfer back and forth not only between the computer and the RAM, but the RAM and the hard drive at speeds that Windows could not even compete with. So even when it's offloading things to your hard drive, it's doing it intelligently and doing the less prioritized things that you're doing, and it's also doing it at a much faster speed. And Apple's unified memory works for both graphics and compute tasks. So on Windows, they're separate, and usually the graphics has much lower RAM. On Mac, it'll prioritize it accordingly, so you can run crazy graphics intensive tasks with much lower relative RAM. Long story short, Apple's memory usually works better because they're on the same chip. The transfer speeds between the chips are better, and the memory management through the OS is able to prioritize things much better. Hope that helps. I oversimplified a lot. Please chill out in the comments. Thanks for watching. Oh, the new MacBook Neo is unusable because it only has 8 gigs of RAM. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I was too busy scrubbing through my 4K Final Cut timeline on my MacBook Neo, while also watching Netflix in the background and having 20 plus other tabs opening that I seamlessly flip through with zero slowdown, while also running Sims 4 in the background at a totally seamless 60 frames per second. All running consecutively, totally seamlessly on the MacBook Neo with 8 gigs of RAM. If you've been complaining about the 8 gigabytes of RAM on this thing, I'd recommend learning a little bit about memory management because it goes a long way and the Macs do it really good.